Republican Senator Gordon Humphrey, former senator from New Hampshire, and Michael Barnes, former political appointee in the George W. Bush Drug Policy Office. He is now supporting Hillary Clinton for president. Senator Humphrey, welcome to the program. You're not going to vote for Donald Trump. Does that mean you are going to vote for Hillary Clinton?
Good evening, Lawrence and Michael. No, I'm not going to vote for Hillary Clinton. I would do so only in the event that the race in New Hampshire, for New Hampshire's electoral votes, was very close. More than likely, I will abstain in that contest, or I might vote for one of the third candidates, shall we say, the independent candidates. But I am most certainly not voting for Donald Trump. I've been saying that for months. I think his mental soundness is very much in question. He is not, in my opinion, a man of sound mind. Think of this. Peggy Noonan's latest column in the Wall Street Journal, just out 2 days ago, is entitled "When They Decided That Donald Trump Was Crazy," and they being the voters. And she talked about all the weird things that he's done, including the most recent outrage of attacking the Gold Star mother, still grieving over the death of her hero son. All of that without an apology, ultimately. I mean, the man does and says things that no normal human being would ever think of doing. He's not right. There's something wrong with his mind. And it would be the height of irresponsibility to empower this man as president. It would be a reckless act in the extreme to empower him as commander-in-chief.
Michael Barnes, what drove you into opposition of Donald Trump?
Generally, I think that in 2016, we don't know what a likely voter is, because the notions that we previously relied upon don't work when we have the candidate now who is giving empowerment to people who are racist or xenophobic or otherwise, but can overtly be prejudiced against individuals, those who've been socially or economically isolated, and the individuals who want a political shakeup. The one good thing that Donald Trump has going for him is he is proposing a shakeup, and what that all means is that there's a great deal of enthusiasm for this candidate among people who have not previously been involved in politics. So we see that in the fundraising totals, we see that in social media, and we likely do not see it in polls. And so you can't say I'm going to rely on polls, typically looking at likely voters, when this is a year in which that means very little. And you have to go out and actually take the overt affirmative step to make sure that Donald Trump is not president of the United States. And so not voting or voting for a libertarian, as much as I hate to say that, because the libertarians this year are about 70% consistent with typical mainstream Republican viewpoints. But you can't do that, because there's a likelihood that with Hillary Clinton's enthusiasm gap and the strong support from disaffected individuals on our side for Trump, that there could be a win if we don't go out and ensure that it does not occur.
Let's listen to what Senator Collins said in her Washington Post piece. She wrote, "I am also deeply concerned that Mr. Trump's lack of self-restraint and his barrage of ill-informed comments would make an already perilous world even more so. It is reckless for a presidential candidate to publicly raise doubts about honoring treaty commitments with our allies. Mr. Trump's tendency to lash out when challenged further escalates the possibility of disputes spinning dangerously out of control." Senator Humphrey, it seems like your neighbor in Maine thinks an awful lot like you do on this subject.
So it seems. I was a member of the Armed Services Committee for all the 12 years I was in the Senate, so I had some understanding of military doctrine and weapons and how things can escalate. And I don't want Donald Trump in the middle of any of that. And by the way, I have a solution, if I may offer it, and that is for the Republican National Committee to reconvene in emergency session this week or next week at the latest and replace Donald Trump as nominee. It can do that. It should do that. It could do that. It must do that. Not so much for the party, but in the national interest. And it would help very much if Presidents Bush, both of them, and Mitt Romney would put some pressure on Reince Priebus to do exactly that, along with Mitch McConnell, of course, and Paul Ryan. That's what needs to be done.
Michael Barnes, it seems like Donald Trump gives a tax cut speech, and that will eliminate the possibility that Senator Humphrey was just talking about, that the Republican leadership will be perfectly happy with that speech, and that's enough to keep going.
I really hope that we're not that poorly off. I mean, I admire the senator's can-do attitude. I think we're way beyond that, and we have to look at what really this boils down to is the security of the nation, the notion that we could have not just a vile but a volatile president who would likely undermine core American values, and the first of which is the rule of law, and then all that is associated, as the senator said, with what goes along with this man who cannot be predicted, and you don't know what he would do in that 3-minute period. We've got to go out and make sure that this individual is not elected president of the United States, and the way to do that is to ensure that the one who doesn't have the enthusiastic voters, Hillary Clinton, gets our votes.
Well, polls show that the public agrees with you, Michael, and you, Senator Humphrey, as well as Senator Collins, on Donald Trump's temperament. We have a Monmouth poll out tonight saying that 67% believe that Donald Trump does not have the right temperament to be president. We're going to have to leave it there for tonight. Senator Humphrey and Michael Barnes, thank you both very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Coming up.